Members, we have a quorum. I call to order the meeting. In the legislative session 2025, and as at the last meeting, we approved 12 projects amounting to $55.2855 billion. On the agenda today, there are 3 items for discussion. The first one is an item carried forward from the last meeting on the 16th of April. We haven't completed the deliberations on the funding proposal. Items 2 and 3 are new funding proposals submitted by the administration. The 3 funding proposals involve a total of $21.6124 billion. If all the funding proposals are approved by members, then we will have approved a total of 15 projects amounting to $76.8979 billion. If we set aside the funding for land acquisition and computerization program, that is $27.347 billion, then the total funding for construction projects amounts to $49.572 billion. If I may remind members, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to the items to be considered today, please observe Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure and disclose the nature of the interest before you speak. I would also like to draw members' attention to Rule 84 of the Rules of Procedure on the voting requirements where there are direct pecuniary interests. Item 1. Assessment 7BF, construction of fire station-cum-ambulance depot with departmental quarters and facilities of the Fire Services Department at Anderson Road, Quarry, site Sai Kung. Paper number PWSC bracket 2025-26-2. This item proposes the upgrading of 177BF to Category A at an estimated cost of $1.1528 billion in money of the day prices. We started discussion of the item at the last meeting, so we'll continue the discussion. Well, the list of public officers attending meeting has been forwarded to members, so I won't introduce the team to you. At the last meeting, 5 members asked questions on the paper, and there were 4 members on waiting to speak. I remember we spent some 30 minutes or so on the item last time. So I would like to ensure that we are efficient in considering items, so I'll draw the line after Mr. Holden Chow has spoken, because if members wish to ask questions, you could follow up on the matter, of course. And so, members, if you wish to speak, please press the request to speak button as soon as you come in. Mr. Andrew Lam is the next to speak. 4 minutes still. Thank you. Well, last time actually some supplementary information was submitted, so it made it easy for us to study the materials. Now, I have no questions on the estimated cost. I find that totally acceptable. But then I compare that with another project, the Kong 1 Fire Station. That's a very complex project. Well, but then pay for residents, site staff was of $2.4 million. But in this case, remuneration of RSS is $28 million. So why is that the case? What is the difference? Who will take the question? Under Secretary? I'll ask Mr. Wong to help me take the question. Yes, Mr. Wong. Assistant Director. Now, for the Kong Wan fire station, the remuneration, it was $2.4 million, and here is $28 million. But because there is a difference in the number of RSS for the Kong Wan fire station, there was just one RSS member, and in this case there are 7. And then it's a new engineering contract that we're adopting. So so there are 6 more staff members because we have to hire a quantity surveyor and 3 assistant QS, and also site officers and 1 accounting officer. So they will help to measure the cost of the project. Now, under NEC option C, well, there is an advantage, as some of you may know. It's about the way we cooperate with and contractors will share the profits with contractors. That's why the cost will be lower. But then contractors have to provide, have to submit invoices and so on. So that's why we need more staff to audit, to check the invoices. But then on the whole, there's advantage adopting NEC, and so the difference in the remuneration is due to the difference in the number of staff members. Mr. Lam, well, yes, I can follow that. Now, so there are more QS officers to follow up on the invoices and so on. Now, you adopt option C of NEC. What about the time, the man hours of other professional staff? Will that also be increased, or will it be the same? Sorry, just now it was Mr. Edward Wong, Project Director, who responded to members' questions. So, Mr. Edward Wong, can you reply? Thank you. Now, on site we have inspectors and engineers. And for every project, it's the same. There's no difference for this project. The complexity is the same. And in terms of resident engineers and inspectors, that's reflected in the works contract. So there's no difference. There is no increase in manpower. I just mentioned increase in QS. Next, Mr. Holden Chow. Now, if other members wish to ask questions, please join us as soon as possible and press the request to speak button. Thank you. Now, I'd like to ask a question. The Anderson Road Fire Station, $1.15 billion, and the unit cost is about $30,000 or so. And floor area is 21,000 square meters or so. Now, compare that to the fire station in Area 72 Chung Kan O. At the time, the cost was $650 million, and on average, the unit cost was about $28,000, so it's not much different. But then, when I do the calculation, the floor area for the Chung Kan O fire station, then it works out, then there are some 22,000 square meters, which is slightly bigger than the construction area for the Anderson Road Fire Station, but it costs only half the amount. So can you tell us, how do you work out the cost per square meter of floor area? Because if it's not the case, how come my calculation shows that the area here is large? The area is larger for the Chung Kan O fire station, but the cost is only half. So do you include other items? So can you just explain how you do the calculation? Thank you. Mr. Edward Wong. Project Director. Well, if I may speak first, Mr. Chairman, for the 2 projects, the difference is that there are divisional training facilities. There's a 12-meter high shaft, so that's why the construction requirements are different. As for the cost per square meters, I will ask Mr. Wong to explain to you how that's calculated. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chow, for your question. Let me explain with the total figure. Now, for the 2 projects, if you consider the gross floor area, for this project is 25,012 square meters, and Chungkano is 16,000 square meters and so on. So the total gross floor areas is more by about 30%. Now, in this project, there is a basement, and the Chungkano project, there's no basement. And so that's why this project costs more. And then there's also training facilities, as mentioned by the Undersecretary. So that includes high Mayday training, high-angle rescue training, industrial training with changeable partitions, and this is unique to the Anderson Road project. And there are other items as well. For example, fast chargers and more foam training facilities, mechanical lifting system, and so on. All these items are unique to this project, and that's why the Anderson Road project is more expensive. Thank you for your detailed explanation. Well, in that case, you don't just divide the total amount by the gross floor area. Now, for the Chungkano fire station, I couldn't find the gross floor area, although I tried to find information. And you told me just now that Chungkano project is 16,000 square meters. So now, and so that means this project is bigger by about 30% in terms of size. So that's good that you tell us. Well, perhaps you could pay attention to that next time. Well, if I may explain. Last time in the supplementary information, we provided a comparison. That is, if you take away all the special facilities, the construction unit cost is still $26,000 per square meter or so for both projects. That is the Anderson Road and the Chungkano project. Mr. Professor Chan Pui Leung, I see that there are parking spaces in the basement, about 160 plus parking spaces. So in your design, have you considered putting the car park not in the basement but on the ground level? Because this building is next to a slope, so if you put all the vehicles in the basement, could there be flooding risk? And if we do not excavate to create a basement, does it mean we could save on cost and also speed up the project? So I wonder if you've considered putting the car park on either the ground floor or the first floor instead of in this basement. Now I'll ask Mr. Edward Wong to help with the design, but then there is a height restriction on the site, and we want to include as many departmental quarters units as possible. And then, of course, for fire ambulances, they're usually rather high, and then there's need to provide a shaft for training as well. So that's why we may have to, use the basement. Mr. Edward Wong, thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chen, for the questions. Yes, the Undersecretary already gave a clear explanation. Now, the site is 3,250 square meters. It's just enough for the parking of fire ambulances and fire engines and ambulances. So we have no choice but to go for a basement for parking purpose. And we want a basement because we want to make the most of the plot ratio. Well, we have already successfully increased the plot ratio from 3.7 to 4.6, and we try to provide as many build as many DQ units as possible. And we are not digging a deep basement because we only park private vehicles in the basement, and all the heavy vehicles will be parked at the ground level. So we want to make the most of the site, and that's why we came up with this design. Thank you. Next, Mr. Stanley Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. First, I'm very glad to see that this facility is going to be built in my area, that is Sai-Kung. First, I'd like to ask about the $1.1 million for the smart devices. Has the administration considered about the cost? And also for contingencies, $100 million. Is there any room for compression? Also, I understand that there will be quarters in the facilities, and I'd like to ask about the traffic implication. 3 questions altogether. Thank you. Under Secretary, I'd like to defer this question to Mr. Wang regarding the traffic arrangements. I'd like to ask the Planning Department, Mr. Lai, to take the question. Mr. Wang, please. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Regarding energy saving, we would use reusable energy, and also we have special measures for energy saving as well. Every year we can save about 92,000 units of energy, and the payback period will be 8 years for our investment in these facilities. Simply put, we have actually conducted some investigation and study about the traffic situation in the area, and we found that there will not be any serious implication on the traffic flow in this area. What about the contingencies? $104 million. All right. Let me take this question as well. We have reserved about 10% of the cost for contingencies. This is a normal practice, because for each project there might be some unforeseen situations. We have to put aside some contingency fund to cater to this need. Yes, in the previous meetings, we have also discussed about this issue. We've asked the administration if they could make a comparison on this reserve of contingencies with other relevant projects. I understand that the administration is examining this issue, and I think we have to give them some time. Perhaps very soon they will provide us with more information regarding whether there are still room for compression on the contingency reserve. Planning Department, any supplement? No? Okay. Any follow-up? Mr. Lee? No? Okay. If members have no further questions, I would like to put this item to the vote. For those who agree to PWSC bracket 2025-26-2 and the proposals therein, please raise your hand. For those against, please raise your hand. I declare that the item is supported by the majority of the members present, and the item is carried. Do we propose that the item be further discussed by the Finance Committee? So according to 41A of the Rules of Procedures of PWSC, I'd like to put this to the vote. This committee would like to propose that the item listed on PWSC 2025-26-2 be further discussed by the Finance Committee. So if this is passed, it means that our committee proposes that the Finance Committee should further discuss this paper. If this is turned down, that means that our committee does not propose to ask the Finance Committee to further discuss this paper. For those for this, please raise your hand. Those against? I declare that the majority of the members present have raised objection to this proposal, i.e., this committee does not propose for the Finance Committee to further discuss this paper, PWSC 2025-26, number 2. So this is the end of the discussion of this item. We would like to thank the officials for attending this session. We'd like to move on to item number 2. Item 2827, CL Yuen Long South, New Development Area, PWSC bracket 2025-26, number 3. This is to recommend to upgrade of the part of 827CL as 906CL and to Category A at an estimated cost of $13.7646 billion in MOD prices. And the government has consulted the development panel, and members agreed that this proposal be submitted to our subcommittee for further discussion. And report on the discussion of the Development Affairs panel have been distributed to members for perusal. And it has been emailed to members on the 6th of May. For those who would like to speak, please press the button now. Those who have pressed the button are Ms. Chen Yuen-ming, Mr. Lam Chen-sing, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Holden Chow, Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, and Mr. Lau Kwok-fan. 4 minutes each, please. Ms. Chen Yuen-ming. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I'm very glad to see that the adjusted cost has been reduced by $300 million. And for Yuen Long South, there will be increased population moving in, and I'd like to ask what is the traffic arrangement and how are they going to go out to different districts to go to work. I hope that the administration will continue to take this matter forward. I have 3 questions. First of all, in New Territory West, it is heavily relied on the light rail. For Hung Shui Kiu, Yuen Long South, there will be a kind of green smart mass traffic system, and for this project there will be similar traffic arrangement. And on para 9 on the paper, it is said that by Q3 of this year, the construction works will commence, and targeting to complete the works in phases from end of 2027 to mid-2032. I'd like to ask if these works could be completed before the population's intake. Can it be completed before 2029? And on para 7 of the paper, it's mentioned about the rehousing of the villages. And in Annex 2, I find that the area to be rehoused is not very big. I'd like to ask what will the vacated land be used for? We do have a few hundred households that will be rehoused. Are they going to be rehoused in the same area or to other housing estates in different districts? My last question is that on para 19, it's mentioned about the villages in the nearby area, and there will be some engineering infrastructure facilities, including the effluent polishing plant. I'd like the administration to provide further information on this, for instance, regarding the name of the village, the related numbers about the works, the area, and will there be any other infrastructure works to be carried out in this area? Permanent Secretary. Thank you, Chair. There are 3 questions. First of all, we will provide written information after the meeting on these questions. Let me answer them verbally first. In Yuen Long South, the first population intake will be 2029. If you look at the Transportation and Logistics Department timetable, they plan to start tendering in 2026, and the tender will be awarded in 2027. So we will try our best to see if we could work in line with this timetable. We will try to move in tandem with the timetable of the relevant department. Second, about rehousing of the existing villages. For this project of new development area, it actually will not affect the indigenous villages, but then there might be some households that will be affected by our project. So according to the existing policy, we will compensate them with some land. We find that there will be about 30-odd cases of this nature. So we will try to compensate them according to the existing policies. Next, Mr. Lim Chen Sing. Thank you, Chairman. My first question is as follows. We understand that there will be a phase 2 development after the completion of phase 1. And for phase 2, there will be a development of 63 hectare of area, and there will be about 12,000 public housing units. Now that I find that the proposed development area is bigger, it's 71 hectare. However, the public housing units is reduced by 10%. There will be only about 11,000 public housing units after the adjusted plan. I'd like to ask, how come that the developed area, while the developed area will be bigger, the public housing units are now reduced? And after reducing these public housing units, will they be compensated during the third phase of the project? My second question regarding Yuen South, it's about the traffic situation in Yuen South. There will be two major highways, the Northern Metropolis Highway, which will be completed by 2036. And there was a suggestion that whether there should be a kind of tunnels going south, tunnel southbound. But then the government said that there will be Highway 11, which will be completed in 2033. So these two major highways will not be completed very shortly. So my question or my worry is that there might be traffic congestions or traffic problem for residents in this area going out to different districts, especially during the peak area. So before these two highways completed, what are there any special arrangements, special traffic arrangements for the residents in this area? My third question, I understand that in land requisition, you will give compensation to the brownfield operators, and then you going to build some multi-story buildings to rehouse or relocate these operators. But then there might be operators that have to use heavy machines. What about the rental rate? If the rental is going to be much higher, it will be very difficult for them to continue their business. So my question is that when you're going to let these operators have a new area for operation, are there any flexibility provided? That is, in addition to the multi-story buildings, are there any compensation or further assistance to these operators?
Permanent Secretary, well, there are three questions. Mr. Chen will help with the second question. In this second phase development, there are many road projects to link up, say, with the Yuen Town, New Town, and also link up with the various MTR stations. On the first question, how come the number of estimated public housing units is less now than compared to a few years ago. Well, that's it's less just by about 1,000 units. It's because in the latest plan we have a consideration. Now this is a new development area. We would like to give more living space to residents, so that's why we want to build bigger units, so people could enjoy more living space, and that's why we have slightly decreased the number of housing units. And for the third phase development, the member was right to point out that we are now conducting a review. We'll see whether it is possible to give some further consideration about the number of public housing units in the third phase. And on affected brownfield operators, I'd like to make 2 points. Now, in Yuen Long South, there will be sites for multi-story buildings for modern industries. And of course, some operators cannot operate in multi-story buildings. So, for example, open storage, and so we'll consider that. And on rent level, we now require the developers to give 20 or 30% of the floor space to the government. So in the initial phase, we will keep the rent level comparable to that for existing brownfield operators. We want to give them time to adapt to the new range that will eventually reach the market level. So I'll hand over to the director. Now, to cope with second phase development of Yuen Long South and so that we will carry out 18 road projects. We will widen the Long Ho Road. We will also extend the Yuen Ching Road. So Yuen Long South residents could take public transport to Yuen Long South, and then there will be a new interchange at Yuen Ching Road. So residents could go through the interchange, and they just need to walk about 5 minutes to get to the MTR stations in Yuen Long. We'll also improve the highway interchange, for example, Shepherd Home interchange, Tin Shui Wai West interchange, and Tong Yen San Chun interchange. So cars could get onto the highway as soon as possible to reach various districts in Hong Kong. Mr. Andrew Lam. Now, I'd like to focus on the cost. So the area is 71 hectares. The total cost is $13.7 billion. So it's double the cost for other new development area. Of course, there will be flood prevention measures, and there are many other details. I won't dare to say that the project cost is high, but if we look about land site clearance or site formation and so on, and if we do some calculation, then for each hectare it costs us about $13 million. But then for Kutong North, Fanning North, or Hong Shui Kiu Lower Village project just a year ago, Kutong North is just about $17 million. Hong Shui Kiu and Haxin $14 million. This time it's about $23 million. So per hectare, that is. So why is that such a huge difference in the cost? Permanent Secretary. Now, for this project, it has its own requirement. There are many road projects outside of the new development area. The roads will not just serve the population moving into the new NDA. The road networks will also help to ease the traffic pressure on or the traffic congestion now in Yuen Long. So some of the projects are not actually under the second phase development area, But then there are also sewage facilities and so on to serve the entire area. So that's why if you do the calculation that way to arrive at the unit cost, and it will be what you've just mentioned. But then in paragraph 28, we take out all these other facilities and we just compare the construction for the second phase development. And then if you do a comparison, then this project, when compared to Shui Q, Fanning Law, or the Santin Technopole, the construction unit cost is more or less the same. I wonder if Mr. Chen has anything to add. Mr. Benjamin Chen. Thank you. In enclosure 14, we explained that with the site clearance and formation work, unit cost is about $1,990 per square meters, and then unit cost in other projects of similar scale and nature is about $1,200 to $3,200 per square meter. And we have 71 hectares, and about 34 of the hectares of that is a brownfield site. So that means we need to do more site clearance. And we've also done a study. We find that there are more structures on the brownfield site, so we need to clear about 2,100 structures. So that's why the unit cost is very reasonable. Just a quick follow-up. I accept what you said. On the site clearance of the brownfield sites, you say that there are more brownfield sites that need to be cleared. And then there's also the contamination. Does the contamination also affect the unit cost? Mr. Benjamin Chen? Yes, that's correct. We will first go to the site and we'll do excavation to see if there is net to decontaminate the soil underneath, and that may require biodegradable treatment or other materials to solidify the contaminated soil. So that's why the cost will be higher. That is, if the land is contaminated. Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yuen South New Development Area. Now, I see that apart from site formation, much of the cost is on the construction of drains and sewage system and roads. Well, the traffic is really bad in Yuen Long, including Sapat Hung. And so, taking advantage of the Yuen South NDA, you're able to provide more roads and ease the traffic congestion in the district. Well, I think is actually essential. But then I have a question. Paragraph 6 of the paper. The total industrial gross floor area, 270,000 square meters. Industrial gross floor area 278,000 square meters. So does it mean that you are going to move the brownfield operations to multi-story buildings? Is that the reason? So is that gross floor area for that purpose? Well, if that's the case, then it leads me to a question. Well, many members have actually mentioned this point before. Some brownfield operations cannot be moved into multi-story buildings. So my concern is, how did you assess the requirement or the needs? What I'm worried about is that after you build the multi-story buildings, but then the brownfield operators don't want to move there, those at the end, the buildings are left more or less vacant. I'm dread to see that. So how do you assess the demand for industrial gross floor area, and do you keep some flexibility if maybe you find that there is not such a strong demand? Now the figure here mentioned is 278,000 square meters, but maybe if the demand is not so big, then you don't need to build so much gross floor area, because now, of course, I know some brownfield operators need to move into the multi-story buildings, but many said that they can't actually move into multi-story buildings. So I don't want to see the wastage of resources. So that's the only point I want to make. Permanent Secretary. Yes, the chairman, the member was right. Here, there's mention of 278,000 square meters of industrial gross floor area. Yes. the closed floor area will be used for storage, logistics, and so on. There will be about 5 hectares of land, and there's another 1 hectare of land for open storage. Because the members just expressed concern that certain brownfield operations cannot really be moved into multi-story buildings, so we have sites to accommodate them. And about 4 hectares of the land will be used for building multi-story buildings. Now, there is flexibility in land planning for MSBs. If we find that there is a stronger demand for open storage, then under the current land use is actually allowed. So if some operations cannot be moved into multi-story, then we have to make provision for open storage, and that's included in our plan. Well, it's good as long as you have flexibility, because I think it's very important. So I'll support this project, Yuen South development, because it's important for the whole Northern Metropolis project. Mr. Chen Siu-hong, thank you. I support the project, and I'd like to take this opportunity to commend the Development Bureau. Now, members have asked the Bureau for more detailed information in various other projects. Especially, this is a project that's very complex, involving different types of works. So in enclosure 14, there's a table, there's comparison of the unit cost for different types of works. And it's good because then we could see at a glance that the government actually is trying its best to come up with the best solution, and that is also the most cost effective. Now, in the second phase, development of Yuen South new development, various new technologies will be adopted. For example, the rectangular tunnel drilling machine. Now, I actually conducted a site visit on such a machine. It's something Hong Kong should be proud of, because this is this is an advanced technology introduced into Hong Kong, so it could help to save costs and the volume of drilling. And then, so in the development project, the various new technologies will be used, MIC and many other new technologies will be adopted. Now, we're not using new technologies just for the sake of using new technology, but rather it will help us to save costs and also speed up the project. And so the tender price return reflects a saving of about $300 million. I don't know if it's because of the adoption of new technologies, or maybe because there will be less nuisance cost, or also the program could be shortened and so on, and that's why there's the saving. So can the Bureau explain that? Second point. Central procurement. Well, we want the government to adopt a central procurement, and the Development Bureau has said on various occasions that in the Northern Metropolis project, they will adopt central procurement as far as possible for, say, reinforcement, steel bars, concrete, and so on. Hopefully, then they could get a better price and lower the project cost. I wonder if this is reflected in this project. And the third question. In the Yuen South NDA, there will be underground flood retention tank and open space, as well as revitalization of channels. I wonder if that it's just a basic project. Will it include say, making use of the water culture there, so you don't have to come back for money again to do that? Now, in enclosures, there are some photos that reminds me of tourism everywhere. So maybe in some of the open spaces, you could plant trees and flowers, so the public could enjoy blossoms, and that could also bring visitors to these places. So have you considered that? Thank you.
So,
I'd like to defer this question to Mr. Chen. Thank you, Chairman. Regarding the questions put by Mr. Chen, the Development Bureau and our department are very supportive of using new technology and also to enhance our design. The contractors also have taken note of that, so they have reduced their tender cost and then have included a lot of smart technology and also green technologies to the project. We also hope to create some green and blue sceneries in line with the government concept of tourism everywhere. And also, we will also introduce some landscaping design, and we will plant a lot of different trees, especially with flowers, so that it will enhance the entire area. Chairman, regarding the first question, it's about using new technology. But then it seems that the cost of the project has not been reduced by a lot after using this kind of proposed new technology. Well, of course, if the construction time could be reduced, that would be a good thing. But then I can see that the project cost has not been reduced significantly with the use of new technology. Well, so I'd like to know whether, since it cannot reduce the cost by a large margin, I'd like to know whether the construction time could be reduced. Yes, Chairman. We hope that by using new technology and high technology, we will be able to reduce the construction time and also lower the construction cost. It could also enhance the construction efficiency. Sorry, Chairman, he has not answered one of my questions, whether they would consider procuring cements and steel through the centralized procurement procedure. Permanent Secretary. Yes, regarding central procurement, I'd like to answer to that question. We have mentioned this on different occasions. We will have a planned centralized procurement on the steels, cement, and also we will also, for different projects, use direct procurement, for instance, the engineering and electrical facilities. So we hope that there could also be a kind of procurement for different projects. These are also a new approach that we will try to take. We find that the cost could be lowered through this kind of central procurement. But then we have to bear in mind that in using new technology at the beginning, the cost may not be reduced significantly. However, in the long run, these works could enhance, the efficiency of these works could be enhanced, the cost could be lowered in the long run, and also safety can be secured. Thank you. Next, Mr. Lau Kwok Fan. Thank you, Chair. I'm in support of this proposal, that is the development of new towns and urban area development. I have a few questions. First, about traffic arrangement. I always feel that in Yuen South there should be a kind of mass transit railway introduced. But then I can see that the government now has opted for a kind of light and green and smart traffic system. But I'd like to ask whether this is sufficient. You are now applying for funding for phase 1 and phase 2 projects. What about the remaining phases? I'm sure that you will continue to review the progress, and I'd like to know whether the presently proposed infrastructure system will be carried on to the remaining phases. Will you perhaps review the situation and see whether it should be adjusted? As we all know that there are a lot of different heavy-duty vehicles that will be going in and out of this new area because there are numerous construction works in the area. But you can imagine what this how this would affect the local residents. The local existing traffic situation is not that ideal, but with more of these construction vehicles going in and out, you can imagine how dire the situation would be. So I'd like to know what sort of arrangement the administration has in mind to ease the problem. Second question about the multi-story building. I know that the administration is working very hard on this, but then if we look at these multi-story buildings, and with the feedback collected from the operators, we find that they only have given a lukewarm response to these arrangements. So I'd like to know whether you would perhaps revisit the situation and see whether these multi-story buildings are really serving its purpose, or do we need to have more of these MSBs in the future? When I look at Kutong North and Fanling North, I find that the compensation policy has been refined, but then there is a time lag. For instance, for land title problem, which is taking a lot of time. So the compensation release is lagging behind. I understand that the Development Bureau is trying to refine the system so as to expedite the procedure. And I'd like to know the progress right now. Has the situation been improved? I.e., can the compensation be released sooner? Permanent Secretary, yes, Mr. Lau has put 4 questions altogether. I'd like to defer the construction period, the construction vehicles, traffic arrangements to Mr. Chen. Well, the first question. Excuse me. The first question regarding the traffic arrangement of this new development area. In Yunnan South, it is positioned as an extension of the Yunlong town center. We never planned this to be a kind of traffic main point for heavy-duty vehicles. We just plan to have this area as a kind of connection to the mass transportation system. So in the future, with increased population, we will, of course, look into the traffic arrangement. We will make sure that it will not adversely affect the residents in the area with these heavy-duty vehicles and construction vehicles going in and out. Regarding the multi-story buildings, what is the relocation arrangements for the brownfield operators? Well, that really depends on the time that we need to have the land available for our projects, for our works. So, of course, we try to minimize the influence on these operators. We try to give them ample time to look for the right location to relocate their operations. And regarding land titles, procedures, and so forth, about a year or so ago, we have already introduced some enhanced procedures so that the entire application procedure could be expedited. If there are some straightforward cases, we will try to handle them within a short period so that compensation could be released ASAP. We're now still thinking of some new policies so as to further expedite the procedure, especially for cases relating to some dated mortgage. And we try to look into new areas so that we could expedite the procedure so that compensation could be released ASAP to these affected personnel. Mr. Chen, first in Yuen South, it will be developed in different phases. The first phase is now underway. Is for the improvement of the Tong and San Chin and also enlargement of the Alcunium Road. After the first phase development, the road will be enlarged and the Tong and San Chin will be reopened. And in the future, the construction vehicles, only a limited number of them, will be going in and out during non-peak period. And also with the enlarged road and new traffic ways, we believe that the traffic arrangement could be enhanced. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Regarding the Yuen South new development area, it's a big area, and understand that it will provide over 32,000 new housing units and over 90,000 new population, 37,000 new employment opportunities. So now for this funding application of $13.7 billion, there will be site formation area. Of course, there is no reason for us to object to that. There will be a site clearance and formation works as well. And there will be new economic activities introduced to this area, basically logistics and high-end technology. Talking about logistics, I really have a lot to say. As you remember, in the recent meetings, I really have voiced out my complaint about the traffic situation. That is, there is a heavy shortage of parking spaces. For instance, the government always encourage people to take mass transit or public transportation. However, for logistics, there will be a lot of different vehicles, heavy-duty cars, commercial vehicles. So among 3 parking spaces, there are only 2, or among the 3, this kind of heavy-duty vehicles, they can only get 2 parking spaces. So this is really very dissatisfactory. And in Yuen South, now you mentioned that there will be land for industrial and commercial operations and also for logistics and storage, also for government and community facilities. But one of the very, very important thing you haven't mentioned here is parking spaces. How can you ask people to live there happily and operators to carry out their operations in this area if there is not enough parking spaces? They have to spend time to look for parking spaces before they could start their operation. And actually after work, the residents have to look for spaces to park their car before going home. I think this is a long-term problem. You really have to look into it and try to come up with a solution. Just put yourself into their shoes. If you are these operators and every day you have to worry about getting the parking tickets because there's no parking spaces for their cars, could you perhaps be more sympathetic and also have empathy for these people? I think this is essential. You have to make sure that there are enough parking spaces for not just the residents but also the operators in the area. I'm really very upset about it, and I also have received a lot of feedback telling me that that is actually their problem. Every day they have to worry about that. They have to face this problem. But Secretary, any response for that? Regarding parking spaces, Dr. Lo is basically concerned about parking spaces for the operators or for commercial or industrial vehicles. We have, as mentioned, MSB, multi-story buildings, and the uses for MSBs are more flexible. So they could provide space not just for logistics operators, but also for parking purposes. And we know that that we could actually reserve several stories for so that the commercial and industrial vehicles could park their cars in these MSBs. We will further examine this situation with the Transport and Logistics Bureau to see how we could solve this problem. We will try to make good use of these industrial land and also MSBs so as to solve the problem. Just one simple point to follow up. Another concern of myself is that before increasing parking spaces, you are actually reducing the parking spaces. In new territories, on a lot of brownfield sites, actually many of them are used as the parking space for the industrial vehicles. But now that you have to take back the brownfield sites. So before you can introduce more parking spaces, you are actually reducing the existing parking spaces on these brownfield sites. So I hope that you'll really look into it and try to avoid creating this kind of further problem to the operators. Thank you.
Permanent Secretary, anything else here? You mentioned before that with clearance of brownfield sites, you will always bear in mind the actual need to do so. Yes, we will also try to identify government land as far as possible for reciting brownfield operators. Now, we will bear in mind the original land use of the affected brownfield operators. Say if the site is used for parking, then we will also use the new site for parking commercial vehicles. Now, we have been searching for lands persistently, and then we have now identified some sites. So hopefully in the second half of the year, we'll be able to invite tender for these sites targeting the affected brownfield operators. So we bear in mind the needs of commercial vehicles. Ms. Nixie Lam, Mr. Clare, I'm a resident in the district, so I know the district well. Two questions. First, public housing land. Now I see there will be various facilities. So what is the projected population? Will these facilities meet the needs of the new population? Second question. Closer to Kong-Am Road. Now we had several torrential rainstorms at Kong-Am Road was totally able to cope, and there was no flooding where I live. And because the channel is wide and deep, so after improvement, what's the estimation? What do you expect the situation to be like? Now rainwater could be drained away quickly, but if you have other means, what is your overall flood prevention measure? How much space is set aside? Because I'm afraid after you spend so much money, then there will be flooding when there is none now. And on tourism everywhere, if people go overseas, they will probably just go there to admire certain blossoms or certain plants, and you know, so that's usually how people are drawn to certain destinations. So in that case, would you consider planting trees with a theme? You said you have to fell a certain number of trees, and you need to replant trees. In that case, would you consider a special species that is appealing, or maybe jacaranda? It may take a bit more time. Now, I understand it takes years to plant for jacaranda to become mature, but then when it blossoms, it's a beautiful purple color. So can you consider planting trees that way? So then you will be creating new attractions. Permanent Secretary, Mr. Chen will take the second and the third questions. The first question, the member asked about the population after the completion of the NDA and whether there are sufficient supporting facilities. Well, we expect a new population of 90,000 to 100,000. So apart from housing units, including public housing units, we will also set aside sites for public facilities, for example, schools, and near the housing estates. We'll reserve land for public transport interchange, for instance, and maybe there will be sites for joint user buildings as well. We'll make sure that the 90,000 or 100,000 residents moving in will be supported by suitable facilities. Mr. Chen, please. Mr. Benjamin Chen. Yeah, thank you for the question. On flooding, in the second phase development of Yuen South NDA, we conducted a study. Now, if there are major rainstorms, we have calculated the possible impact. So that's why we're going to build a flood retention lake and a flood retention pond. And so we could then cope with some torrential rainstorm and also cope with extreme weather. If there's extreme weather, the flood retention pond will store the rainwater, and then the rainwater will be drained through the Yuen Long Nala and other channel. And we could also revitalize the Nala in the process. And we will actually beautify the environment by the channels. And we will plant trees with a special theme. So we'll build a full row of trees that will turn the place into an attraction. So we will be planting themed trees, and we will talk to the district council and the caring teams on such tree planting. Mr. Ben Chen, thank you. I'm concerned about flooding too. In Yuen Long, there are a few nullahs and channels, and that's why we rarely see flooding. Now, a dam is being built by Yuen Long Tang, and probably after its completion, there will be even less risk of flooding. Now, flood retention lake will be built, a pond will be built. So you will have both flood retention pond and lake. Is it really necessary to have such a large scale of flood prevention facilities? Because when there's heavy rain, it will be drained away quickly through the Nolan channel, so it's really necessary. Well, it's true the cost is lower this time for such flood prevention measures. So what sort of a torrential rainstorm do you have in mind that you want to deal with? Now, and we're told that there won't be any heavy rail service serving the area. People will have to use various types of feeder service to get to MTR stations, or they have to take buses to get to different districts. So that's why it's not so convenient compared to the Yuen Long Tang. And that means residents probably need park and ride facilities. Now, many people who live in Kam Tin will park their car at Kam Shan Road and then take the MTR to get to other districts. Now, here in this project, we don't see any plans for park and ride facilities. Now, you build a road to get to Yun Sheng Street and Yun Ho Street. and so some traffic will be diverted to close to the Yuen MTR station. So you divert people to get there, but then people won't know where to park their cars. Now, on weekdays or even and weekends, the Yoho car park is almost always full. So if you divert traffic to that area, shouldn't you provide a park and ride facility? So if people live in remote places, and even if they have a car, they won't drive to the urban areas. Because they live in remote areas, people will drive to the urban areas if there are no alternatives, and we don't want to see that. So perhaps near Yuen Ching Street, there will be sites for park and ride facilities. So to make it more convenient for residents. Thank you. Mr. Benjamin Chen. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for your question on flood prevention. Now we considered the 2023 torrential rainstorm, and that's why we've updated the guidelines. So in our design, we will take into account the latest requirements. And the flood retention pond could cope with some extreme weather. That's what we hope. Now, Yuen South is a low-lying area. It's close to river channels. And then there are mountains such as Kongyam Shan and so on. That means there will be water coming down from the mountain. So that's why we need to cater for extreme weather. Traffic and transport. On Yuen Ching Road, we're going to build a public transport interchange. There will be other government facilities too. So we'll consider the demand for feeder service. I hope I have answered your question. Mr. Tang Fei, thank you. The Bureau said sites will be set aside for schools. At the end, there will be 98,000, close to 100,000 people moving in. So there should be a strong need for schools. But then in the whole document, there's no mention of schools. Is it to do with GIC facilities or what? Because there are two different types of schools. There are schools in public housing estate, and there are non-public housing estate school sites. So what is the plan for schools? Because in New Territories West, Chin Shui Wai in particular, the students like to go to Yuen Long, maybe not so much Chuen Mun, and so there is a shortfall of school places in Yuen Long. Now perhaps the shortage more in Yuen Long North and not in Yuen Long South, and this project is Yuen Long South. But still, how much land are you reserving for schools? And are these housing estate schools or non-housing estate schools? Because these are two different types of schools. Because then we may be talking about direct subsidy schools, international schools, or aided schools. We're talking about totally different types of schools. Permanent Secretary. Sites reserved for schools. In the second phase development, we have set aside land for schools, 4 sites in total. If members are interested, you could refer to the enclosure 2. There you see 4 sites shaded in light brown. And so those sites are good for secondary and primary schools. And then these sites are close to the public transport interchange. They are not in housing estates, so the locations are rather accessible. And these are school sites for second phase development. In other phases of development, there will also be school sites to cope with the increased population. So that's the first round of questions. One member is asked to speak for a second time. Mr. Chen Siu-hong, 3 minutes, please. Thank you, Chairman. The second phase development, Yulong South NDA, there will be sites for housing, logistics, warehousing, and then the opportunity will be taken to enhance the flood prevention capacity and so on. Now, paragraphs 19 and 30 refer to the infrastructure. In particular, paragraph 19, there will be the effluent polishing plant, and then paragraph 30, the construction will be reduced to reduce the number to 2 pumping stations. That's to save cost. So will the pumping stations still be needed? Because in the next item, we're going to talk about the Shui effluent polishing plant. Now, how do you delineate the catchment area? Are the two related? Maybe now you save 1 pumping station, so in your plan there's no need for another pumping station in the future?
Mr. Chen. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chen. In Yulong South and Shui, they have there are 2 different districts in handling the sewage. In Yulong South, there will be a kind of effluent polishing plant, and in the future, we will have another project to construct this effluent polishing plant. For Yunnan South, there will be phase 1 and phase 2 works, and we will have a new population. We understand that there will be increased demand in the kind of sewage water treatment facilities. And for the pumping stations, we are actually designing or planning to refine the existing pumping stations. We're not going to build new ones. We just try to enhance existing systems so that there more a new kind of drainage network, so that we could reduce the construction cost or operation cost of these pumping stations. All right, if members have no further questions, I would like to put this item to the vote. For those who support the proposal stated in PWSC bracket 2025-26 number 3, please raise your hand. For those against, please raise your hand. No. All right, I take it that a majority of the members present are in support of the proposal stated in the paper. The paper is passed. Whether these papers should be further discussed by the Finance Committee, we would like to put it to the vote according to Rule 41A of the PWSC Rules of Proceedings to a vote. This subcommittee proposes that the Finance Committee further discuss the paper PWSC 2025-26 number 3 and the proposal therein. If this is passed, it means that our subcommittee proposes that the Finance Committee should further discuss this paper. If this is turned down, it means that our subcommittee does not propose the Finance Committee to further discuss the paper. For those who support the proposal, please raise your hand. Those against, please raise your hand. I take it that majority of the members present objected to the proposal, so this is turned down. It means that this committee does not propose the Finance Committee to further discuss the paper PWSC 2025-26 number 3. All right, this is the end of the discussion of this item. I'd like to thank the government officials for attending this session. We would like to move on to item number 3. Item 3, 428DS Shui Q Effluent Polishing Paper. PWSC bracket 2025-26, number 4. This is to upgrade the part of 428DS as 463DS to Category A at an estimated cost of $6.695 billion in MOD prices. Earlier on, this has been discussed by the panel of development, and members agree that the proposal should be submitted to our subcommittee for further discussion. And the discussion report of the panel has been distributed to members earlier on for reference. And for the government officials attending this session, their names have been stated in the paper that were distributed to members. So I'm not going to introduce the team members one by one. For those who would like to speak, please press the button. We now have 2 members in line, Mr. Lee Chen-kyung and Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. 4 minutes each. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. With the development of the northern metropolis, we understand that there will be a new population intake to the district. So there will be increasing demand for public facilities, including water supply, electricity supply, and so forth. Water is important. It includes supply of clean water and also a sewerage system. We have effluent polishing plant, and the demand for that is natural. In the paper, I understand that there will be the construction of the new treatment facilities, and I welcome that. My question is about the location of this plant. Is this the ideal location? On the paper, I understand that 9 objection papers have been received during the public consultation period. I'd like to know what is the reasons for their opposition. Are they worried about the odor that is going to be released from this plant, or any other problems that they have in mind? I'd like to defer this question to Mr. Mock, Director of Drainage Services. Thank you, Chair. As you can see in the paper, we have conducted a lot of public consultation. We have met with different representatives from the different stakeholders, including those from the Rural Committee. A lot of residents are concerned about the smell or the odor that is to be released from this plant. And another part of their concern is about land acquisition. I would like to leave that aside first at this moment. I'd like to first focus on their concern about the odor that is to be released from the plant. Well, I can assure members that we are adopting new technologies, and these plants will be very different from the existing or the old ones. There will not be a serious odor releasing from the plants. And we have a double kind of protection layers for the water tanks. Basically, they will be underground. For those built above ground, we will have a kind of special facilities to avoid or to prevent odors from being released from these water tanks. And sometimes for maintenance purpose, staff may have to open up the tank. So we have the second part of protection. As you can see from the pictures, we will have a kind of building so that this kind of water tank would be put in the buildings. And in that case, the odor will not be released. We will also have the ventilation system so as to make sure that the odor will not be released to the nearby area. So this is a kind of double safety measures, or we do have special design to address the issue. Thank you. A few years ago, we went to the Greater Bay Area for a site visit. We visited their effluent water plant, and we find that it's very good because there is no odor at all, and they can actually make use of the water so as to create a kind of very pleasant facilities nearby, so that residents could actually go visit the area, and it becomes a very amiable area. Very pleasant areas. Yes, in the lake effluent polishing plant, I had been there for a site visit as well. But then it's a different plant from us. They are closer to the residential area. For us in Shui effluent polishing plant, this is actually quite far away from the residential area. So relatively speaking, they would affect less of the local residents. And also, our plant is actually, the majority of it is underground. So that is why the project cost will be a bit higher than the normal ones. In Shui, we also have considered whether we could make use of the adjacent area so as to create it into a pleasant site so that people could visit there. But then, on the other hand, we hope to make full use or optimum use of the area for the purpose of effluent polishing plant. So we have to strike a balance. Well, at present, we have located a space which will be turned into a public area, a pleasant site for residents to visit. However, this will not be a very big area. Next, Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chair. Regarding the infrastructure works, this is very important. And for this effluent polishing plant, I'm happy with the design, and I'm in support of the suggestions therein. My concern is actually about, same as Mr. Lee, about the objections collected from the stakeholders. I visited similar plants from different countries and areas, including those in the mainlands, and I understand that technologies have been much advanced, and then this kind of facilities will not bring about adverse effect to the local residents. But of course, it is also understandable that the residents may be worried about the potential environmental impact. What we have to do is to explain to them and also let them know that we are using latest technology so that these plants will be very pleasant and there will not be a serious odor problem. Well, comparing Shui facility with Shek Wu Hui plant, for the unit price, I have no follow-up problem on that. And my problem is on para 17. It states that you would use a kind of high-strength steel utility bridge to replace the traditional underground utility tunnel to reduce construction cost. I think this is a good thing. We're making use of new technology so as to reduce construction cost, and it will be easier for maintenance in the future as well. I'd like to know a bit more about this. If we're going to use the traditional construction method instead of these latest one, what would be the cost? In other words, how much cost can you save in using this kind of new technology, new high-strength steel utility bridge? Thank you, Mr. Chen. We have actually conducted some cost analysis. For this plant, it is divided into east and west part. There is a road division dividing these two parts of the plant. So if we travel from the east part to the west part, we have to build a kind of bridge or channel. One option is to build an underground channel. So if in constructing this underground channel, we have to make sure that it will not contradict or bump or go into the underground channel. The second option is that we could use part of it would be the traditional underground tunnel, but then we can make use of the space and optimize space use. And during the process of effluent polishing, there will be some sludge created. We have to build another facility so as to do this kind of sludge treatment. And normally we would need a space to build different tunnels, so as for instance it could be underground tunnel and personnel could also go inside for maintenance and changing of tunnels. But if we opt for that, the cost would be much higher, because that will be a tunnel that can allow people to, or maintenance people to go in. So our present design is to use S690 high strength steel utility bridge, so as to transport these sludge to the treatment area, and the cost save could be $160 million.
If I may ask a follow-up question, I thank the director for his explanation. So you're able to save over $100 million. What about for Hachun Road? Is it possible to straighten it so you could combine the east and the west plants? Then you could even save the utility bridge cost altogether. Now the treatment plant, is it related to the plant in the west? And that's why the it's close to the Sunlight bridge. So why don't you straighten the road, Mr. Mark? Now, the layout is a plant in the east and one in the west. The plant in the west is the existing Sunlight sewage treatment plant. But of course, some of the facilities have been suspended because of another new facility. So we are just making use of the existing Sunlight sewage treatment site for building the west plant, is to make the most of the land space available. But then we need space too to build a plant in the east. Now the Hachun Road alignment was under much study. We've done much consultation, and so there's need for this road. And this road is important for the accessibility of the plant. Now, as I mentioned, sludge will be transported by the steel utility bridge. And that's the advantage in doing that, because there will be elevation from the ground to a high level, and we need treatment facilities at a high level, because then the sludge cake could then be transported to our transport vehicles for incineration elsewhere. So we need the pump to raise the pressure. So that's why this design actually meets our operational needs. Now, our meeting will end at 10:30, and there are 5 more members waiting to speak. So Mr. Teen is going to speak as well. So 6 members in total waiting to speak. Members, if you wish to speak, please indicate as soon as possible. So I will assess whether we're able to finish this item. If not, we've already scheduled another meeting on the 12th of May. So even for members who are not present here, if they wish to ask questions on this project, please press the button as soon as possible. Well, if we include Mr. Tien, there are in total 7 members who wish to speak. Now, I'll try to let members speak as far as possible, but then probably you can't finish within 4 minutes because the members often first state their position before they ask questions. So members, if you don't want another meeting, please watch the time. Otherwise, we won't be able to finish this item today. Next, Mr. Holden Chow. Thank you. I'll be brief. 2 questions. 1. For the Shui effluent polishing plant, it's actually sewage treatment. Compared to other effluent polishing plants in the area, such as the Yuen plants, are they connected in any way? Can you explain that? Or is there any interaction among the plants? Now, this is the first phase works. Phase 1's works are 60,000 cubic meters, and then it could eventually be increased to 90,000 cubic meters. And would that be the phase 2 works? And how much will phase 2 works cost? Or are there ways you could save the cost for phase 2 in some ways? Mr. Mock? Thank you. Shui phase 1 works, the Shui new development area, first phase and second phase, the population will exceed 100,000. So that's why it's essential to have an effluent polishing plant. Otherwise, it affects population intake. We adopt an internet of sewage collection facilities. In the Northern Metropolis in the west, we have the Senway sewage treatment plant and also the Yuen effluent polishing plants, and a capacity of 100,000 square cubic meters. And in Yuen and Honshu, there will be 2 collection facilities along the route, and so that they form a network together. So the Yuen South facilities will become an important component of the network. So then we could there could be flexible deployment, and we'll be able to make the most of the capacity. Now, then that could meet the demands of Shui, and with the remaining capacity in future, we just need to install the E&M facilities, and then the capacity could be used. So we are now reviewing the needs in the other future developments. But actually, with the civil engineering works, they will have a capacity of 90,000 cubic meters. So it will be easy, relatively easy to install electrical and mechanical equipment in future. Now, I can't tell what the cost will be like in future. But I can give you some figures for reference. Let's say if we keep have a capacity of 90,000, then we're talking about another $1 billion. Ms. Ingsi Lam. We visited your charcoaling facilities, and there's a very nice playground there. So here, will you consider similar facilities? Maybe this site is rather remote, and so perhaps that's the design you have now. I have done some study on playground facilities. Now, Yuen Chun Bun, have fewer playground per child population. In Central Western is 0.99, in Yuen and Timon is just about 0.1 or 0.2. So we're at the low end. The rooftop, seems to, if it's not put to any use, it will be a waste. And Chakulang, that's a nice playground. Now you say this location is removed, it's not close to any residential development. So how much playground space could we provide to children there, so children and parents don't have to travel a long distance to get to any recreational facilities? I think this is very important for the development of Hong Kong as a whole, and it's also important for our happiness index. So don't just consider how many will live nearby. I think, there are many children living in Tin Shui Wai, and there will be people living in Ha Chun. And so I hope we will, cast our sight further. We're talking about playground facilities that can be enjoyed by children in the 18 districts, and Yuen and Timon are at the low end. And you can get these figures from Lesko Papers. Thank you. Mr. Mark. During the planning stage, members have already, the government has already considered very carefully the demand for leisure and recreational facilities in the district, and the outline zoning plan was prepared as a result. Now there is sufficient recreational land in the district, so there will be sufficient facilities for residents' enjoyment. So that's why for the rooftop of facilities, we will build renewable energy facilities. You see many photovoltaic solar panels from the photo, so that's to help save on electricity cost. Okay, you opt for renewable energy facilities. That will still be an education base for children. Now, when you have such facilities, parents, why do people have to travel elsewhere during the weekend? Because in Hong Kong, we have not made the most of our hardware. So in that case, can we have some sort of education themed park or something? It doesn't have to be a playground with play facilities. So with such hardware, it could be used for educational purpose. When children are young, they see these facilities, and maybe when they grow up, they want to become engineers too. I must stress again, Yuen Long is ranked third last in terms of the provision of playground facilities in Hong Kong. So I must mention that again. And now this is a large site. So if there could be such facilities, it would be great. Mr. Mark. We will actively consider providing such public education facilities. Now, we don't have enough time today, but actually we organize various tours, guided tours to our facilities. So we will do the same here. Next, Dr. Lo Ai Kwok. Thank you. I speak in support of the Hong Shui Kiu effluent polishing plant. We have to spend this kind of money because this is a very important facility. A quick question. We have a serious shortage of food waste treatment facilities. The strategy of the Environment and Ecology Bureau is that it will build dedicated food waste treatment facilities at sewage treatment plants. They will also build include food waste treatment facilities. So will there be such facilities here at the polishing plant in Hong Shui Kiu? Undersecretary? We explained to the reference panel before that we have OPAC 1, OPAC 2, and 2 sewage treatment plants with sludge and food waste co-digestion facilities. So we could handle 100 tons of food waste each day. And then we've also explained to the panel what we have under planning. Now, this proposal is about funding for the effluent polishing plant. Actually, we have set aside land as well. We'll apply for resources in future for the treatment of food waste. So we can make the most of the polishing and sewage treatment plants of the Drainage Services Department for treating food waste. You mean here there will be food waste treatment facilities as well? It's just that it's not included in this funding proposal? Yes, that's right. Thank you. Then I hope we could approve this project soon. Next, Mr. Michael Look. Thank you. Shui effluent polishing plant. There are 2 questions here. First, I've asked residents in Shui and Shui, they are concerned about odor. I visited a sewage treatment facilities in Chao. There is still some odor. I don't know if it's true that you can now remove the odor altogether. So I don't know if there are new ways to minimize odor. And where is the nearest residential development? Because I know that area is for logistics purpose. So residential development may be quite far away. Second question, whether it's a secondary or tertiary treatment, I'd like to learn learn more about it. With tertiary treatment, then the treated sewage effluent could be discharged into Deep Bay. I'm just looking at the map, and so it's a shorter distance. But if you have to go to the Long Ku channel, do you have to build some sort of channel? So what is the implication on cost and the environment with the 2 different options? So when you consider whether it will be secondary plus treatment or you going to the Long Ku channel, so what's the consideration? First on odor.
In Chao plant, this was built with the traditional ways. But then we added some outer layer to the plant so that we could try our best to contain the odor. But for this present one in Shui is different. We are making use of more advanced technology, so the odor problem will be reduced to the minimum. Second, for the treated water, we would discharge it in Long Ku tunnel. In Shanwai plant, it would go through a deep underground tunnel. We are just making use of the present facilities to discharge these treated water. So the drainage length will be much shorter. We don't need to spend money to build a longer drainage. Otherwise, it would have to go a longer way to before this treated water could be discharged. And second is for environmental protection consideration. With this present method, we're able to protect the environment. And that's why we have opted for this method. What about the residential area? How close will it be to the plant? The closest one would be about 700 meters from the plant. Thank you. Next, Mr. Gary Zhang. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about the difference between secondary and tertiary treatments. Now, this project has opted for the tertiary treatment. What are the rationale behind? What are the considerations for that? And second question, Did you just say that on the rooftop of this plant you would install some photovoltaic or solar panels? If that is the case, how much solar energy you could harvest from those panels? What about the facade of the building? Do you have any plans of installing a kind of energy harvesting facilities in the facade of the building? Last question about the influence that it is going to, or the impact that it will bring to the residents in the existing area. For instance, Hachun village. I understand that there are several villages nearby that do not have the drainage systems. If we have such a big new polishing plant in the area, I think we should also try to make use of this opportunity to help these villages to improve their sewage system. All right, first question first about why we have opted for this tertiary treatment method. Basically, it's because of the technology that we're going to adopt. Comparing secondary and tertiary treatments, the technology used will be more or less the same. But then for the water quality, or in the tertiary treatment method will be better, and we have compared the cost between the two. I'm sorry, Chair, I have a follow-up question. If that is the case, why don't you adopt completely a tertiary treatment method in this new plant? Well, because the water discharge will be to the we have to consider the treatment point. This treated water will be discharged to the sea, and since it is more diluted, so we do not need to adopt the tertiary treatment so as to dilute the water before it is discharged to the sea. Next, about the solar panels, yes, we plan to install these panels on the rooftop. How come not on the facade? Two reasons. First, because they are not high-rise buildings, so the area for us to install these solar panels will be very limited. And also the angle may not be right, and so it is more efficient if we install these panels on the rooftop. Second, for the outer wall of these plants, we do have a lot of special facilities like the openings for discharging the odor or the odor treatment, and that is why it is not suitable for us to install the panels on the outer walls of these plants. Third, about the drainage systems improvement in the nearby villages. Let me take this question. Yes, Undersecretary, please. Well, I understand that people, local residents in the neighborhood have their demands, and by March 2025, we'll actually cover 586 villages, and 38 are also having works undergoing. We have to take different factors into consideration. First, how it could improve the environment. Second, the density of population in the villages. Third, cost effectiveness, and so forth. We've heard voices from the local residents and the stakeholders. For instance, in Northern Metropolis, some people think that this may provide opportunities for the government to improve the facilities in this neighborhood. In deciding on the design of the infrastructures of these new development area, we would take different factors into consideration. And we will try our best to install the drainage systems as close to the nearby villages as possible so as to improve their environment, so that in the future their drainage systems could be connected to the major systems in the new development area. Regarding Hongshui-Kiu, Hachun, and the sewage collection facility will have enough capacity to cater to the needs of the local area, including the existing villages. That is, the drainage systems could be connected to the existing sewage systems of the villages. We will keep a close eye on the situation, and in the future, if need be, we will apply for further funding so that the existing drainage systems of villages could be connected to the new ones. All right, I hope the administration will really take a look at that, because we have spent so much public money in developing new areas. We hope that we could make good use of the opportunity so as to improve the living situation and the environment of the local residents in the nearby areas. All right, members, we have 5 more minutes left. We still have 2 members waiting to speak. If there are no further members pressing the button, I'd like to extend the meeting for 15 minutes so that we can cover all questions, so that we do not need to have an additional meeting on the 12th of May. Next, Mr. Long Hong Bill, please. Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief. For this project, I am in support of it. This is a major facility, major infrastructural facilities, especially in the development of new areas such as Hongshui-Q and in the northern metropolis as a whole as well. I am actually concerned about the timetable. On page 3 of the paper, it says that in Hongshui-Q Hachun, second phase development will commence, or population intake will start in 2030. And there will be an additional of 98,500 people moving into this area. And for your present project, phase 1 construction works will start or will commence in 2031 or 32. There is a time lag here. Will it affect the residents who have moved into this area? Because your projects have not commenced and the works have not been completed, and there are already new population intake. In Kudong North, the infrastructure works completion date should be in line with the residential development projects. I hope that there will not be a very major time lag. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Long, for your question. In Hongshui-Q New Development Area, the major population intake will peak by 2030. So we have to commence the facilities or the effluent polishing plant by 2030. According to our present plan, the timing is all right because we can commence this plant, the facilities, and complete the works by 2030 before the major population intake to this new area. And also we have contingency plan. For instance, there will be a kind of temporary arrangements so that in the early phase, there will be temporary treatment methods so that the sewage could be treated before the major facilities are completed. Next, Mr. Michael Tian. Well, Chairman, I have discussed with relevant government officials and also other panel members, and they have answered most of my questions, so I do not have any major question to put today. But then I am quite upset about one point. I really have to voice this again. For the development of a northern metropolis in Yuen Long, we have to spend 700 million, in Yuen Long South 180 odd, and Ngau Tam Mei about 110. So you have launched a lot of funding application, but then there is no clear timetable, and there are various major projects to be commenced more or less at the same time. And in applying for funding, you talked about a lot of merits of these projects. But then after funding is obtained, you seems to have forgotten about it. And you mentioned about Northern Metropolis, there will be water supply, electricity supply, a lot of people will be moving in. However, there is no mass transport system. So the infrastructure are not ready. With so many new population, there is the transportation capability is not on par with the population. So I understand your problem. But then I really have to voice my discontent because there are people who are living there, but then they have to suffer from this congested traffic every day. Unless most of the people will work in Shenzhen, then they could take Junma line to go to Hongshui and then change to a railroad to go to Shenzhen. Well, Chairman, do you believe that? Do you think most of the people will work in Shenzhen then? Well, second point about this effluent polishing plant, they cost a lot of money. And in Yuen rural area, there are 6 villages, 150 odd villages. A lot of the drainage systems are still not connected to the main system. And there are also no branches. So the 150 odd villages are still using very old method to treat their waters and the sludge. And it's really very ironical because you have very beautiful facilities in the new area. However, there are still some very backward villages, and villages have to suffer from very poor infrastructure support. They actually have projects approved. It costs 1.8 billion to improve their present situation. How come you are not applying for funding of 1.8 billion to help these existing villages in the old villages? It's really ironical you are applying for so much public money to build new areas and new facilities, but then you seem not to notice the villages who are in dire situation. So my stance is very clear. As long as you do not have the railroad project connecting this area, and as long as you do not apply for funding of 1.8 billion to improve the situation of the existing villages, I will not support this present project. That's all.
From the Secretary, any response? About the village sewage collection system, I've already given you details earlier on. Now in Hongshui, Hachun, and Yuen South NDA second phase development, the CDD will have sufficient capacity for sewage collection. So in future, when we apply for resources, so are you telling me, sorry, then for the 32 projects already established, you only need $1.8 billion and still you're not ready to come and seek funding? Well, thank you. We've met before with you've met our colleagues and it covers many different places. So when we apply for resources, we have to consider the factors I mentioned. So you just care about the new residents, you don't care about the existing residents? You won't seek funding for them? Now, for the Category D items, we will make adjustment to some of the works projects. Do you have a timetable for these 32 projects listed? We don't have a timetable yet, but we'll try our best to apply for resources. Mr. Tan is all for mass transit system. And do you have anything to add? We will Mr. Yao, perhaps. Now we are proceeding great speed with the Northern Metropolis project. That's why we have submitted several funding proposals for site formation, etc. in this year. But then we are not moving everyone in one go. It will be in phases. So we'll have regard to the population intake schedule, and then we'll plan our transport facilities accordingly. Mr. Tan. I think you have amply stated your position. Mr. Yao, please continue. So in different NDAs, when we plan population intake, we will carry out a traffic and transport impact assessment. We will provide new infrastructure, including transport facilities. Now, Mr. Tan mentioned the Shui to Hong Kong railroad that goes past the artificial islands. Well, we're still continuing with the study of the artificial islands. But then the artificial islands project may be pushed back a bit, as the government has announced. But then we will certainly have regard to the schedule of population intake and the need for support facilities, including transport facilities. We'll make sure we'll meet the demands. Well, there are over 1 million people moving to Northern Metropolis, and then in 2020, 33, 34, the Hong Shui-Qiu-Tianhai rail line will be completed, and there will be hundreds of thousands of our compatriots from the mainland rushing to the Hong Shui-Qiu station. When they reach the Hong Shui-Qiu station, how do they get to other parts of the territory? Now, the Hong Shui-Qiu-Tianhai rail link will be completed in 2034. How many more mainland visitors will be brought to Hong Kong as a result? Have you considered it? Mr. Tan, you have made clear your views. Of course, the item we're considering now is the effluent polishing plant. I won't make life difficult for you. I'll stop here, Mr. Chairman. Well, that's why I try to allow members time to give their views on policy issues. At the same time, want members to make the most of the time we have at the meeting. If members have no other questions, I'll put the item to a vote. Those in favor of the proposal in paper number PWSC 2025-264, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. That's one, Mr. Tan. Oh, Mr. Tan is not a member of this subcommittee, actually. So you can't vote, really. I think the majority of the members are in favor of the proposal. The proposal is carried. On whether the Finance Committee should have further discussion of the item in accordance with paragraph 41 of the procedures of the PWSC, I now put the following question to a vote. This subcommittee recommends further discussion of paper number PWSC 25-264 at the Finance Committee. If I may remind members, if this question is agreed to, that means the committee recommends further discussion of this paper at the Finance Committee. If the question is negative, that means this committee does not recommend further discussion of the item in the Finance Committee. Those in favor of the question, please raise your hands. Those against the question, please raise your hands. I think members who have voted against, the majority of members who voted are against this question. That means this subcommittee does not recommend further discussion of paper number PWSC 2025-264 at the Finance Committee. The funding proposals approved today will be submitted to the Finance Committee for consideration in May or thereafter. Now, originally we've scheduled another meeting on the 12th of May if we're not able to complete our discussion today. Well, but since we have completed the agenda today, so there's no need for the May 12th meeting. The next regular meeting will be on the 21st of May at 8:30 a.m. Members, please attend that meeting on time. So that's the end of the meeting today. Thank you for attending the meeting. Thank you.